Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this session, Aim to Engage, using AI to supercharge the human connection in presentations and demos with David Duffett. My name's Todd Adamson. I'm an enterprise account executive here at Consensus, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. DEMOFEST is presented by Consensus. Transform how you sell with Consensus, the first product experience platform. Automate demos, drive faster decisions, and accelerate growth. You can learn more at goconsensus.com or click Watch a Demo at the top of your screen. We encourage you to participate in today's session. Like many of you have already been doing so in the chat, you can find a few ways to engage with us in the side on the right side of your console. The chat function will allow you to connect with us as well as the other attendees. You can find some helpful resources in the Docs tab. And lastly, your speaker will answer any questions towards the end of our session today, so please ask your questions at any time through the Q&A box, and we'll make sure to monitor those and get those answered. If at any time you have technical difficulties, head to the gear icon on the bottom of your screen, and this is where you'll see a help document to troubleshoot common issues. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, David Duffett. David is a geek enablement specialist in the area of presentations and communications. He's been helping geeks speak, nerds get heard, techies talk, and engineers be engaging for many years. In addition to being a qualified trainer and chartered engineer himself, David is also a UK national champion public speaker. He has distilled many years of training and speaking experience into 7 power presenting protocols for nerds, and they provide a fantastic framework for harnessing the power of AI. His mission is to help you be a winning communicator with your colleagues, prospects, and clients. And with that, I'll turn the rest of the time over to you, David.
Well, thank you very much, Todd. It's great to be here with everybody. And by the way, Ben, thank you for your message. I did enjoy my drive through Virginia, and good to see you, Steve, in the UK there as well. I'm going to put the screen share on here. So just tell me if that's popped up nicely. You should see the title slide just coming into view now. It says Aim to Engage. Have you got that?
Yep, looks great.
Great. Okay, so this presentation is all about engaging in a human-to-human way, but using AI, hence the orange-coloured AI in the title, to enhance that. And if you're wondering about that QR code, that's my LinkedIn. So if we're not yet linked in, then do take a moment to scan that QR code and let's get linked in, because it's a great networking tool for us all to join together. Okay. So here's the agenda for our time together today. I'm aware that although we've got the best part of an hour, it will zoom past very, very quickly. So I'd like to provide some context and then talk about the problem as I see it. And then I've got some stuff around AI. I've got rules for using AI in the world of presentations and demos, and some thoughts about the results that we get from AI as well. Now, I'm quite aware that there is a temptation out there in the pre-sales and the solutions world to let AI do a lot of work for you or for us. And there's nothing wrong with using AI. However, people are already getting resistant to it if they feel that they've been given some AI sort of slop that somebody has just cracked out by using the simplest of prompts and not really done too much homework. They're getting wise to that. And so I will have some counsel in that area. And I believe the best way for you to use AI is within a human-to-human framework. And so that's what I'm going to supply for you today. How does that sound for an agenda there that you can see? Type a yes or let's go or something along those lines in the chat to give a bit of encouragement as we jump in here. Great. Good news. Okay, thank you. I'd like to see those thumbs up. All right, bit of a quick background about me. My name's David Duffett. I've been in the tech world for many, many years, and I spent quite a lot of that time going around the world. I was privileged to go into lots of different countries and speak at lots of different conferences, and I met a lot of very, very nice technical people who were really genuine people. They knew exactly what they were talking about. It could well be said of them, they knew their stuff. And that is the currency in the tech world, isn't it? We hear, you know, Mark really knows his stuff, or Betty, she's really switched on about that technology. And here's the thing. In our world, in the world of pre-sales, solutions architecture, that kind of stuff, knowing your stuff is not enough. It's your ability to present the relevant part of your stuff in a way that other people can receive, digest, and use the information. So I've turned my attention more recently to conference speaking and working at people's sales kickoffs and company team days and that kind of stuff. I occasionally do some panel moderation as well. Now, here's the problem as I see it. When we think about all the demos and presentations that are getting delivered out there, and even just thinking about PowerPoint, if we only think about PowerPoint, Microsoft tell us that there are over 30 million presentations every single day. And that's, you know, that's before we think about Prezi or Google Slides or any of the other tools that are out there. If we just think about those 30 million presentations, it cannot be argued that statistically, most of them must be about average, mustn't they? That's a statistical fact. If you've got a bunch of presentations or demos, most of them are going to be around average. Down at the bottom end of the presentation excellence chart, you can see I've got BCP. Now, if you've not seen one of my presentations before, I'm here to tell you that BCP stands for, you might want to write this down, buttock clenchingly poor. These are presentations that are that bad. They're so bad, they induce a physiological response. And if you're sitting down, you might feel yourself tensing up a little bit as you go to watch the rest of the presentation. If you've ever seen somebody walking out of a presentation and it kind of looks like they're, well, they're not walking as well as they might, maybe they've been watching a buttock clenchingly poor presentation. Up at the other end, I've got SOG, which is standing ovation great. These are excellent presentations. They're so good. But it doesn't matter what the presentation was about. You just want to do whatever the speaker was telling you. So whether that's change your behavior, adopt a new work process, implement a health and safety directive, buy a book, doesn't really matter what it is. You just want to do it because the presentation was so good. And over many years, what I've observed is that when we look in the lower half of this chart, sadly, the less excellent presentations, there is a disproportionate representation of technical people. Now, I'm making the sweeping generalization that a lot of us have ended up in the pre-sales world because technically we were pretty good. We knew what we were talking about. We knew our stuff. And that was one of the prerequisites for getting into our pre-sales role. But of course, it's also important that we're excellent communicators as well. Now, in the B2B world, you might be old enough to remember, if you're as old as me, you'll remember a time before Microsoft Word, before PowerPoint, where, you know, you had to do presentations and create documents in your own way. And, you know, they weren't always brilliant. And one of the things that PowerPoint and Word and other similar tools like Google Slides have done for us is they've allowed us to create content that looks the part. You know, obviously there's good uses of PowerPoint and bad uses of PowerPoint, but if you've got anything about you, pretty much you can generally create a very reasonable presentation. So the differentiator became the content, you know, is what you're putting inside your presentation, inside your document, inside your demo. Is the content any good? And is it relevant? And of course, that actually helped people stand out. But then along comes ChatGPT, and I'm aware that there are many others. I know some people favor Claude, there's Copilot, Gemini, there's all sorts of tools that are out there, DeepSeek, if that's the right word, right name that I can remember. There's lots of different ones out there. And so we've now got a tool that can help us with the content of demos and presentations as well. But I'm here to tell you, even though we might be thinking about B2B, business to business, the fact of the matter is that it's still all about human to human connectivity. And I attended the PSC AI Summit a couple of weeks ago, and there was lots of interesting AI information. But one of the themes that came out time and time again is how we need to double down on our human to human connectivity as well. It's one thing to use AI well, it's another thing to make sure that you've got a proper human to human connection going on with your colleagues and your prospects and your customers. So that's what we're about. I want to ask, has this ever happened to you? You're watching something interesting and then all of a sudden, boom, buffering. Now, I'd like to jump in the chat and write what you think the problem is. Why has that happened? What's the problem that leads to this symptom of me not being able to watch the video I want to watch? Pop something in the chat, whether you think it's a Wi-Fi problem or a server problem or whatever it is. We've got different things going. Internet connection from Todd, bandwidth, didn't pay your bills. Yeah, lots of different things. Yeah, so here's the thing. It is a connection problem of some type. We don't know exactly why. It could be our Wi-Fi. It could equally be the server at the far end of the internet connection. But we know we've got some kind of bad connection or connectivity problem. Now, here's the thing. And I'm pausing for effect here because I want to ask you, how often have you seen people start a demo or a presentation without having the right connection between them and the audience? Imagine if you've got a bad connection between you and your audience. Imagine if you've not got enough bandwidth between you and your audience. You're not going to be able to give your information sensibly to them because there's not enough bandwidth for them to receive it. Similarly, any information that they want to give back to you, whether that's kind of skepticism or disagreement with what you're talking about or questions, they're not going to be in a position to get those across to you if you've not established the connection. So what we're talking about in this presentation is all about the maximum connectivity between you and your audience in a human-to-human way. And by the way, I don't buy that stereotype that technical people are no good at making connections, that technical people are introverts and so they don't like making presentations. I do think that nobody likes to be in front of a group ill-prepared for a demo or ill-prepared for a presentation. And so there needs to be a proper briefing and there needs to be all the right activities gone into in the lead up to it. Here's what I think. You see this picture of the person in the picture here, you can see if you look carefully that one of their muscles is a lot bigger than the other. And what I believe is that people who have done a lot of work to get where they are technically, whether that's go to college or university to learn about software or hardware engineering or telecoms or software as a service or whatever it is, they've put a lot of work into all that technical stuff. They've come to work, they've been given on-the-job training, they've been given product updates, they've been given all sorts of things to flex that technical muscle, but often it's at the expense of the person-to-person communications muscle, the interactivity muscle that's been left underdeveloped. And so what I'm here to do is balance things up so that both muscles are the same, so that your technical excellence is equaled by your communications prowess, your human-to-human connectivity. So before we jump into this framework that I've got for you, and what I'm going to do is use a very human-to-human rapport-driven framework to actually pass on some stuff about AI, but I want to talk generally about using AI. The first thing is whichever AI you're using, whether it's ChatGPT or one of the others, it's always important to give the AI as much information as possible. And I'm sure you know that that goes beyond your prompt. So you can load up files to it, you can load up videos to it, you can load up pictures to it, you can point it to websites and all kinds of things. So it's always good to give it as much information as possible. The next thing is to tell your AI who you want it to be or how you want it to act. And then lastly, on the prompt engineering phase, do of course be as specific as possible, and don't be afraid of reiterating commands or modifying them slightly. So you might give a prompt to an AI engine, it might give you some results back, but don't feel frightened to go, okay, that's great. Actually, can you modify the results in light of the fact that the customer's budget is a maximum of $2 million or whatever it might be? So you can reiterate those things. The other thing is when you get the results, please, 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 please don't take your content wholesale from AI. As you know, AI can hallucinate, and so it might give you the wrong information, but you will find that your human-to-human connectivity is enhanced when you take AI results for ideas about what to think about and speak about and put your own spin on it, as opposed to just lifting content out of AI. People want to get to know you. Your bandwidth is not between some AI and your audience, it's between you and your audience. And so do make sure that people are getting to know you. They will not warm to generic AI generated slush. And as I said, people are already getting wise and resistant to this as well. Okay, recipe for success is using AI in the human to human rapport driven framework I'm about to show you. And if you've got an AI that allows you to do projects like the paid version of ChatGPT, you can house everything in one space, and that will be really useful to you. Todd, I'm talking along here and I'm about to get in the framework, but if any questions do pop up in the chat, do let me know, because I'm happy to handle them as we go along. So here is our framework. It's a 7-part framework and they all begin with P. Whenever you're considering a demo or a presentation, you should, of course, always consider the purpose. Don't go hacking around on slides. Step back and think about the purpose. Then put together your plan for maximum effectiveness in terms of the structure and getting things into people's memories so they can recall them. Then there's people's preferences. How do people learn best or take information in best? What practice should you be doing in order to maximize the effectiveness of your demo or presentation? How are you going to have people participate in it? You certainly don't want to be doing things to people. You want to be doing things with people and for people. Then how do you deliver the best performance? And lastly, how do you follow up? I'm sure you've heard your sales colleagues say the fortune is in the follow-up, and so it is for demos and presentations as well. Okay, so let's look at the purpose. Now, the purpose of a presentation is all about agreeing between 3 different parties. The presenter, which is probably you delivering the demo or the presentation, the sponsor, that could be your AE, it could be your boss, it could be the conference organizer, and the audience. What we want is not only to come up with what the objectives or what the desired outcomes of this demo or presentation are, but we need to agree them. And that agreement can take the form of a brief email. This does not have to be a large contractual looking document. It could be as simple as an email that says, I'm coming over a week on Tuesday to deliver a demo of our amazing platform. And I was thinking to cover A, B, and C, perhaps go into a little bit more detail of D. What do you think? And get agreement between your sponsor and your audience. Now, I'm going to dive into some AI prompts to help with each of these power presenting protocols, but just a quick word in general. When we give the AI engine reference material, we can do it in this way: URLs, documents, other file types, and plain text within the prompt. So there's no excuse not to tell the AI as much as you possibly can. You need to give it as much context as absolutely possible. So here's a basic AI prompt just to get you going on the purpose of a presentation. And by the way, I loaded up the manuscript of my book. I've written a book called Be the Nerd That's Heard. And so I loaded it up just so that the AI knew about the 7 power presenting protocols. So instead of saying purpose, just checking that the AI knew what I was talking about, I said thinking about protocol 1, which is purpose. So if you didn't load up the book manuscript, you could say thinking about purpose. It says, please generate 10 questions that anyone should ask when preparing for a presentation. So I would say that's a very basic sort of entry-level prompt. Let me give you a quick look. I'm afraid the typeface is very small here, but just to show you how AI responded here, this was ChatGPT. Can you see that it recognized what protocol 1 is? It said, absolutely, focusing on protocol 1 purpose. Here are 10 questions that anyone, especially technical professionals, should ask before preparing a presentation or a demo. So here's the point. The point here is, even if you just said, give me 10 pointers on the purpose of a presentation, the fact of the matter is that you're standing back and you're thinking about these things, not hacking around on some slides, not taking a deck that somebody else has used and just making a few small edits, changing the company logo, hiding that slide. You're thinking about the purpose of your presentation. Let me show you a more detailed prompt. Now, I've color-coded the things here. First of all, it says acting like a world-class business development presenter. So you're telling your AI how to act. Then the next bit is some additional information. It says, knowing that I'm going to present to 5 people from a company called Consensus, and I've popped in the website there, so the URL is there to be looked up, and that the senior person in the group is Todd Adamson. Check him out on LinkedIn. So I'm pointing the AI to Todd's LinkedIn profile. It says, please list 5 important aspects to the purpose of the presentation that I will make to show them why they need to buy my Let the Geek Speak training program. So you can see that prompt is kind of next level, isn't it? It's giving more information about how I want the AI to think, giving it some extra information, and then passing on some additional requirements. And you can see there that it responded to that nicely. And by the way, these slides will be available afterwards, so please don't worry if you can't read these as we're breezing through them, but the fact is that they'll be there for you to reference. Importantly, look, this is the last part. It gave me 5 because I asked for 5, so it gave me these 5 aspects. Now look at this very last thing. It says, by focusing on these areas, your presentation will demonstrate how the Let the Geek Speak complements consensus submission and technology. And then look, can you see there's this little highlighted area that says sources, and when you click it, you get the citations on the far right here, so you can see the different websites, the different URLs, and the information that the AI chose. So if you were wanting to make sure that there are no hallucinations, then this is a good place just to check up. And you could, of course, tell it to miss out some of these if you thought they were irrelevant. So the more specific you can be with your AI, the better. Now, before we leave purpose, I want to tell you this. You can use AI to help you shape the purpose before you talk to the sponsor and the audience. You know, this is not a secret. It's possible to speak to the audience of a presentation a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times before you ever meet them. You know, you can send them emails if you know who they're going to be. If it's just a small group that you're going to do a demo to, why wouldn't you get in touch? And so the purpose of opening up that communications channel, building that rapport, is not only to create those objectives, but to agree them, so that when you actually show up, there's a massive overlap between what you deliver and what your target audience wants. So there's purpose. Then the next one we've got is plan. And planning is all about making a framework for a presentation that absolutely relies on the human attention span and interworks with it, so we do the best job in delivering our information. And we know that people are more tuned in at the beginning of a presentation or a demo and at the end. But of course, there's different things that we can do in the middle of it to help them focus their attention as well. So just thinking about the structure of a presentation, here's another AI prompt. By the way, I'm saying thank you to, this is a series of prompts, so it gave me all that stuff about the purpose. And I said, thank you. Now acting like a demo rock star and thinking about protocol 2, which is the plan protocol. So you could just say, thinking about planning the presentation, please suggest the perfect structure for a 30-minute demo of my Geek Speak software. I'm making this stuff up as I go along, but you see the point. And there we've got the response. There's my prompt, now acting like a rock star demo. And it says, absolutely, David, you're the expert, blah, blah, blah. Perfect 30-minute structure. Again, it puts these things together because it's even given me timings. It didn't have to, but it did. It gave me a nice little timing. And just to prove that it had put everything together, I jumped in and also gave it another prompt on the attention grabbing part. So in other words, when the attention lulls after the start of the presentation, as it always does, that's just, you know, the nature of human attention, it kind of goes down a little bit and then it pops back up near the end of a session, near the end of a presentation or a demo. I also asked the AI, well, what can you do to help me peak attention throughout the presentation? So here's the next prompt. And I said, I love that structure, thank you. Please suggest 10 different ways that I can renew the attention of the audience during my demo. And you can see there that it started off with ask a pattern breaking question, call out a common mistake, and then flip it. So you can see that it's totally tuned in to what we're trying to achieve here. And this is the joy, by the way, of doing it within the context of a project in AIs that support that, but you can kind of build on things. So there's the plan, the structure to keep in with the attention span of human beings and the way they work, and the way we can pique people's attention as we go through. Some ideas about that. Notice that in none of this am I lifting content from what AI has given me and actually popping it on slides. No, this is all about using AI to help me create a better human-to-human experience. Todd, I'm not keeping a good eye on the chat there. Can you just check and tell me if there's any questions? Just a yes or a no. If there are, call them out. If not, we'll carry on. Okay, I saw that. So brilliant. All right, so our next protocol of this rapport generating human-to-human connectivity puzzle is preferences, and everybody has preferences. And I'd like to ask you a quick question here. Imagine if consensus, they're very generous people. Imagine, this is an imagine question, it's not going to happen, but imagine if consensus decided to give everybody on this call a brand new bean to cup coffee maker. One of those really expensive ones where you load the beans in the top, you connect it up to the water and the electricity, and then it generates amazing coffee for you on a cup by cup basis. Imagine that happened. I'm going to give you 3 choices now about what you're going to do when Amazon delivers this amazing coffee machine to your door. Are you going to, number 1, rip the thing out of the box, casting any instructions to one side, plugging it all in, and then play with it? Are you a kind of a play with it person? Okay. Are you, option 2 or option B, are you going to carefully open the box with a box cutter that you keep on the side just for such occasions? You neatly open the box, you pull out the instruction manual, it's in a plastic bag of its own, so you untape the plastic bag very, very carefully, and then you sit in your favorite chair and you read the entire manual cover to cover before you get anywhere near the coffee machine. Are you that person? Don't worry if you are, there's nothing wrong here. These are just different approaches. So you're either a play with it person or you're a manual reading person. Okay, I'm getting 1s and 2s coming through. So 1 is the play with it, 2 is the manual reading. What about the third group? I'm expecting less of these people, but I'm hoping there's some on the call. Are you the kind of person that just leaves the coffee machine in the box and then sits down in your favorite comfortable chair and you start reflecting on the relationships that you've had with previous coffee machines in your life? And then you start thinking about what you want to get out of the relationship with this new coffee machine. Are you person type 3, more of a reflector? By the way, if you are a reflector, if you do reflect on these things, if you want to use a flip chart as part of that process, it's almost undoubtedly true that you work in HR, but that's a separate point. Anyway, so are you 1, a play with it person, 2, a manual reader, or 3, the reflective type person? We're getting a few different ones come in there. So let me just show you this, because there are these 3 types. Some people prefer to read the manual. Some people prefer to get straight to the action. And some people prefer a bit of reflection. Yeah, interesting point, James. You're saying a mix of 1 or 2, and you're quite right. Just like any kind of personality type, there's no sort of cast iron or concrete thing, because you might be different at different times and you might have different approaches depending on what you're doing. But here's the point I want to make. Can you imagine if you are an action-orientated person, you love to get in there and start playing with things, and you're putting together a demo for a group of people who, it turns out, you don't know this, but it turns out they're manual readers. And so you get in there with your demo, you put the mouse in their hands, and you get them working on it, because you think, maybe you don't even think, maybe this is just a subconscious process. You think, I learn by doing, and so my audience are going to learn by doing as well. So that's what I'm going to make them do. I'm going to get them working first. Now, can you see that there would be a disconnect, that things wouldn't be quite right if you'd misjudged that? And so we really need to take into account the preferences of our audience for the demo or the presentation. This is more about creating, maintaining, growing that bandwidth between us. And so what can we do on the prompt front? Well, here's my prompt again. Apologies, but it's very small there. But it says, thank you. That's thanking AI for the last thing it gave me. I believe Todd Adamson and his colleagues are pre-sales people with a technical background. What sort of learners do you think they might be? And can you see how AI responded here? It's a great question, David. Spot on to dig into learning styles. Understanding how tech pre-sales professionals like Todd and his team tend to learn can give you a serious edge. And by the way, people, this is exactly what we're after, isn't it? We want the edge. That's why we're not falling into the trap of getting AI to spew out a slideshow for us with a load of points that we didn't think up ourselves, that we might be in difficulty if we're ever asked about them. No, what we're doing is we're using AI to enhance the human to human connection here. That's what it's all about. So you can see that AI gave me a great answer there. And I said, by the way, can you see it went off, it started talking about logical, analytical learners, which was great. But then I went back to it and said, thank you. If you had to pick one, do you think these people, or they are more likely to be input, action, or reflection oriented? And so then I forced it to choose between those. And of course it did. And look, can you see, it gave me a few, it actually gave me 1 to 8 different things to do for action orientated people. But look what it did. I didn't even ask it to do this. At the bottom, it said what to avoid. Don't do long blocks of theory. Don't go too heavy on the slides, and so on. And it also offered to design a 30-minute masterclass or workshop agenda for me. And AI is very good at this. It will spew out the wrong word. It will generate the results that you want, providing you give it great prompts, and it will offer the next steps as well. You know, like, do you want me to create a checklist or something like that? So this is the preferences. Let's move on. Next to the preferences is practice. Well, you might think, hold on a minute, how can AI help me practice a demo or a presentation? And by the way, here's what practice is not. Practice is not flicking through your slides the night before, the flight before, or the minute before, if it's a Zoom presentation. You're about to go ahead and do it. Practice is actually all about doing your delivery in real life, in real time, ideally to real people. It could be your phone or any other kind of recording device, but in the world of practice, this is a gratuitous excuse for me to show you some pictures of my son who wanted to learn guitar when he was a lot younger. And as you can see, if you look top left there, he looks a little bit sweaty and self-conscious, but he pushed through it and carried on doing it until he got to the stage. Well, I'm going to use the word stage twice. He got to the place in his life where he can own a stage. He goes out at Glastonbury Festival, at South by Southwest in Texas, and he owns the stage because he pushed through all of the embarrassment and he practiced and practiced and kept on doing it. And if you, my friends, want to be brilliant at delivering demos and presentations, you should practice too. And so let's go to the AI prompt, because the more you do it, the better you get. So how can AI help us? Look at the prompt here. I'll read it out. It says, now, this is an interesting one. Look what I wrote there. I meant to write act like the #1 presentation coach in the world. But look what I actually wrote. I put act live #1 presentation coach in the world, but it still understood what I was talking about. Please generate a practice schedule, including idea, and I meant to put ideal audiences for each practice to ensure my delivery is on point when I actually visit Consensus and Todd. And can you see what it did? Not only did it come up with this multi-phase approach for practicing, but it tells me which audience I should be dealing with. So to start with, it's just me, you know, very first one, don't want it to be too embarrassing. I'll just do it to myself, maybe to a recording device. But the next one, it says the audience should be trusted friends or colleagues. And so AI can actually help you, and it can give you a checklist or a schedule to practice. Because, my friends, amateurs practice till they get it right, but professionals practice until they just can't get it wrong. And you can see it even gave us a bonus tip at the end. It said a bonus tip, confidence booster, do a 5-minute warm-up 1 hour before the actual demo. So when you're at the venue or whatever it might be. But I really like the fact that it gave me a multi-phase approach here, and it told me how far out these approaches should be. it told me the ideal audience. So let's just check in on phase 4 here. Phase 4 was to simulate the live pressure and to be able to polish the presentation. Mix of unprofessional, sorry, not unprofessional, a mix of unfamiliar professionals and high caliber peers. And then it said, you know, part of what you're doing is making sure that it works to time. So AI can help us even in the practice phase. Yes, you're quite right, Clifford. Perfect practice until one is unconsciously competent. Yeah, no, thank you for that, Clifford. I would like to actually use that comment to just draw the analogy of driving. Now, in England, when you learn to drive a car, you generally learn to drive in a stick shift, you know, where you're changing gears. I realise that in the countries that you're at, that might not be the case. But when you do learn to drive on a stick shift, one of the things you realise very early on is when you go to change gear and you have to put your foot on the clutch to change gear, that something else, you know, misses your attention. So the car might swerve slightly, not swerve off the road, nothing catastrophic, but you're trying to keep a straight line and it might move slightly. And this is exactly the case with presentations. When you're delivering presentations and demos, you're going to find, to start with, you're trying to think of too many things at once, and so something else takes a hit. Ultimately, when you learn to drive, you get to the point where, and this is where Clifford's comment comes in, that you're unconsciously competent. And when you're unconsciously competent in something, you can also introduce a conscious process to listen to yourself and think, am I speaking too fast? Have I got the audience on my side? Have I involved them correctly? Do they understand what the point of this presentation or this demo is? So you can do all of that. Thank you for pointing that out, Clifford. Much appreciated. Okay, so back to our 7 power presenting protocols. And then we've got participation. Now, participation is absolutely crucial. And it's for this simple reason. And by the way, if you're making notes here and you want to write something down, this is the thing to write down. If you write nothing else down, write this down. Involvement equals commitment. The more you can involve people in your demo or in your presentation, the more committed they will be to the outcome. So participation is absolutely critical. Now, in order to do a bit of a meta example of this, I want to ask you in the chat, what methods of participation do you like to use in your presentations or demos to involve people fully? I've got a few that I'm going to list in a moment, but I'd love to hear what yours are. So type them in the chat there. I'm looking in the chat. I can see it. And by the way, I can see that Clifford got a lot of thumbs up for his comment, and deservedly so. Cherry says hands on. Yeah, getting people involved. That's great. Open questions. Brilliant. Yes. Rewards for good questions. You're quite right. Was that Cherry that said that? Yes, Cherry. Rewards for good questions. I love giving out English chocolates. And Cherry, for that great contribution, I'd like to give you a virtual quality streak, which is an English chocolate. I can't get it to you physically on this occasion, but have a virtual one. Crack a joke. Yeah, jokes are good. Self-deprecating humour is usually best because you don't want to have any humour at other people's expense. Asking questions, yes. Shows of hands, yeah. There's all sorts of ones there. So thank you. Yeah, keep tapping them in, and I will just show you a few that I came up with for this presentation. Questions, of course. Questions are the answers, especially properly addressed questions that are combined with making good eye contact with your audience. Of course, a bit more difficult on a virtual presentation, but still possible. But yes, good questions. Yes, stand up if, yeah, like that. Shows of hands. Yeah, I'm here to talk about bananas. How many people like bananas? Yeah, get a show of hands. Storytelling, sharing experiences, taking part in demos. You're putting the mouse in their hands. Yeah, a demo with one person, Steve. Yeah, having somebody help you out. Thank you. Expert contributions from other people in the room. Group discussions. Group discussions is an interesting one. You can break people up into little groups and have them discuss a particular point that you've been making and try and see what other people think. Breakout sessions, surveys, gamification. There's lots of different things that we can do. And so participation is absolutely key. including case studies. And participation, by the way, is excellent if you know you've got some experts in the room or people that have already kind of been through the process that you're talking about. You can get them on your side and contributing to the good of the whole session. Now, how can AI help us in this? Well, look at my prompt here. It says, during my demo, what means and modes of participation do you, Mr. AI, suggest that I use to ensure maximum engagement and involvement of the audience? So used a very open question there, but I've done this within the project, so it still knows that I'm talking about meeting up with the consensus team and Todd leading that team. So you can see that it's building on things here, and it says live feedback loop, call and response, that kind of stuff. There's a number of good things in there. So participation is a great place where you can use AI to prompt your ideas. And again, let me reiterate this theme. You are not using AI to generate content that you pop on slides or a script that you say. What you're using AI for is to come up with ideas that you can then adapt, adopt, and become adept at using. In other words, you're just using it as a springboard for things that you make your own. This is how you're going to accentuate your human to human connectivity. You will do yourself a complete disservice if you ask AI to generate a bunch of slides or a script for you to use. These are not things that you should be doing. You should be using AI to be your ideas person, to come up with things that you may not have thought of. I'll give you a quick example, not for this presentation, but for something else I was doing. I asked, I think it might have been Claude at the time, or maybe ChatGPT, what are the 10 most important things to keep in mind when a technical person makes a presentation to a non-technical audience? And it came up with 10. And as I went through it, I was going, yeah, I've done that one. I thought of that one. I've written about that one. Oh, number 9, I've never thought of that. And that became an idea for a LinkedIn post. So I didn't have AI generate the LinkedIn post. It gave me the idea of something to talk about for it. And I would suggest that this is the best way. Okay, from participation, we're on to performance. And that's the art of actually standing in front of people and doing the demo or giving the presentation. And I would submit to you that if you've been through the first 5 power presenting protocols, you are already in an amazing position to do a great job. So some of the nerves will have gone. I would say the majority of the nerves will go if you're well prepared for what you're going to do. But how can AI actually help us to be better in terms of delivering a presentation or a demo? Well, it turns out it can do exactly that. So here's a prompt, and you can see that I used the most minute prompt here. I could have said, act like a world-class performance coach, or make me a presentation rock star. But I used a very simple prompt here, and I said, thank you so much for the previous thing. How can you help me improve my verbal delivery and stagecraft? And you can see that it went on to talk about the verbal delivery, the voice, the clarity and charisma. And when I talk about voice, I tend to talk about the pitch of your voice, the pace of your voice, the power of using pauses in your verbal delivery, all of these kind of things. And then it said, then AI said, here's some options for how I can support you. Personalized video feedback. Imagine videoing yourself, delivering your presentation without an audience there, and then uploading that video to the AI machine of your choice to give you feedback on it. Wouldn't that be amazing? Live one-to-one rehearsal sessions where you can talk to the AI. As you know, a lot of AIs have got voice interfaces, so you can actually speak to it and get spoken feedback. And then you can share your slide deck as well if you've got one. So it turns out AI can do all sorts of amazing things to help you with your stagecraft and with your vocal delivery. Great. Okay, Clifford, you're making another great point that you can use AI to generate content as a starting point. Yeah, agreed. What we've got to be careful of is using AI wholesale and not putting enough of our intelligence into it. You see, the whole thing is people want to connect with you. And the more you use AI to give content, the less they're seeing of you. The more you use AI to promote your thinking, it's like supercharging everything that you're doing. And so by using AI, to be a springboard into what you're doing, you're going to have much better results. Okay, and now let's go to the last one. It's post-event. Now, one of the things that I actively work against is the drive-by demo or the drive-by presentation. If you look at this presentation slide very carefully, can you see he's not got a gun in his hand? That is a PowerPoint clicker and maybe a laser pointer as well. We all have a laser pointer. But what I'm trying to do is stamp out this practice of people showing up and doing presentations or demos that they're not properly briefed for. And I think we can agree that sometimes this is the fault of our AEs, the salespeople in our lives, not briefing us properly and giving it the old do the same as you did last time when they ring you up the night before and ask you to get involved. And we need to work against that. We need to be a little bit more assertive and push back on people, helping them to understand, that we want to do the absolute best job. And to do that, we need a bit of notice and a bit of prep time and a proper briefing. But in order to stamp out the drive-by demo or the drive-by presentation, we go back to our original purpose. You remember the purpose was all about not only creating our desired outcomes, but agreeing them with the sponsor, the person that asked you to do this presentation or demo, and the audience as well ahead of time, if possible. And by the way, if you can't speak with the audience ahead of time, like for this very DEMOFEST, I didn't know who was going to show up. What you can do at the very beginning is show them the agenda and say, how is that? And that allows you to get some buy-in. Okay, so we've got this agreement that we've been able to go back over. And so the sponsor and the audience are agreed with us. But how do we follow up? Well, let's look at what we can ask AI. Again, a very minimal prompt here. I'm still thanking it. I like to be polite to AI. It says, acting like a sales genius, tell me what the post-event activities will be once the demo is done. And can you see it's come up with, and I've just clicked the beginning and the end, just to show you this. It says, you've got the immediate stuff. So after you've given a demo or a presentation, you can ask people for immediate feedback. Maybe you've got a post-demo survey or some kind of online thing that you like people to do. But of course, that's not the beginning and the end of it, because no presentation or demo happens in isolation. It's part of a bigger thing. For instance, you might be giving a presentation to show people the top 5 features of this particular new release of software, but actually the larger business objective may be to minimize the number of tech support phone calls you get about this or tech support contacts that you get about this new release. And so you can't judge that immediately after a presentation. You would be judging that in the weeks and months afterwards by actually checking the statistics from your support colleagues. Good. Okay. Oh, yes. And Todd loves the personal voice video note. Yeah, video DMs are a wonderful way of saying thank you to people and keeping that rapport channel not only alive and well, but actually growing it as well. Good stuff. Okay, so we've come to the end of the 7 power presenting protocols. I hope, in fact, I don't hope, I know that I've shown you that in each one of these, which is based on creating, enhancing and growing rapport, that AI is able to contribute significantly to the goodness of what you're doing and to be able to give you better results than you may have achieved in isolation. Now, do you remember this video that we were watching where it's just getting to the exciting bit and boom, buffering? Well, that was because we didn't have a good connection. And I said to you that when you make a presentation, you really need to get that connection. You need to establish it before you ever meet the audience, ideally, or at least at the very beginning of the presentation. Work hard to do it. You need to grow it and enhance it. Now let's just look back over those 7 power presenting protocols, because if you're careful with the purpose and agreeing that with your sponsor and your audience, then you create a plan that takes into account their attention spans and the way to get things into their memories. Then you think about their preferences. Are they input orientated people, action orientated? Do they like to rip things out of the box and get going with it? Or are they more reflective people? Then we deal with the practice. And remember, we need to practice as part of the process of perfecting our presentation. Then we think about participation. In fact, I would advocate actually sitting back. You can use AI and ask it to give you some ideas, but just think about how you're going to involve people in your individual demos and presentations. That actually warrants a few minutes thought by itself. Then we get to the performance of actually stepping out, and AI can help us. We can practice into AI and it will actually give us feedback if we'd like to. That should not be in lieu of doing it to valued colleagues who will have valid opinions, but it's a great thing to do. And then, of course, the post-event. Can you see rapport is the thread through all of those 7 power presenting protocols? It's the glue that holds them all together. Or to use a different analogy, those 7 power presenting protocols that I've given you are components of a rocket engine. And when you put them all together, the fuel that fires the engine is rapport. It's your connection with the audience. The better your connection, the more bandwidth, the more bi-directional it is, the more everything is going to work well. Now, listen, you might be watching this presentation thinking, yeah, this is all well and good, but actually my presentations and my demos are already pretty good. Thank you. And that's great. I hope they are. I would suggest that these 7 power presenting protocols not only allow you a framework to create a presentation from scratch, but if you've got one you already like, why not use them as seven different aspects or camera angles to look at an existing demo or presentation and move from, slightly above average towards standing ovation great. Okay, you now know a lot, but knowing and not doing is worse than not knowing in the first place. You've got no excuse. So I hope you're going to take this, watch the recording, and really work with this information so that you can get the edge in your demos and presentations. We've got time, just a brief time, for any questions that you might have or any comments. I know Clifford has been quite vocal in the chat with the comments, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Clifford, and Steve over there in the UK. Any other questions or comments that you'd like to throw in at this stage? And I can see that you're here as well, Todd.
Lots of positive feedback on the session. I haven't seen any questions yet, but we still do have a couple of minutes. If anyone has any questions, we can take those live here.
I do love a live question, but I'm going to summarize, because one of my hot tips for you in your presentations and demos is to never, ever, ever finish a presentation with Q&A. It's a terrible thing to do. And so I eat my own dog food here, and I have a few slides to finish with, but now is a good time for any questions if you have them. Thank you to Gagan for saying that was so insightful. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Dave. Thank you for thanking me. That's great. That's why we're here, to provide these insights. And Steve, yes, Steve agrees, never, ever end on Q&A. In fact, let me give you a real life war story. I saw a presentation from a highly, highly polished presenter. It was an excellent presentation. It was done in a very swanky venue in San Francisco, and you would recognize the name of the company instantly. They'd obviously spent a lot of money on their slideware. The guy did a great job, but at the end, he effectively said, "That's it. Any questions?" Somebody piped up in the stage and said, "Yeah, I've been trying to integrate your software with this particular thing that I want to do, and it's not working." And boom, the conversation veered off in a way that was totally irrelevant to 99% of the people in the audience. And so did people go away from that presentation remembering the key message? Did they go away thinking of the call to action? No, that presentation whimpered out. It fizzled out. It didn't end in a bang. So with that in view, Todd, and I'm not seeing any questions coming up there, so let's carry on, shall we?
I think we have one in the Q&A. I just noticed
from
Clifford. Can one use this with, say, your new employer's selling preferences?
Yeah, absolutely. Take those on board. And in fact, if there is like a company way of doing things, throw that into the AI as some of the context that you're giving it. But yeah, always good to try and get to the bottom of those preferences. Okay, let's continue then. So AI can help you to present purposefully and demo decisively. Having that purpose not only created but agreed with the other people is the rudder that's going to steer your ship. AI can help you to give your audience a solid structure and proof. You'll remember there was an acronym of proof where P was primacy, R was recency, and the OOF was outstanding, overemphasis and familiarity. But you'll need to go back to the recording and see that. You can deliver a demo in a way that your audience will love. AI can help you to practice like you mean it, invest in involvement by getting up your engagement and commitment levels, and polish your performance, spoken and body language too. And it can help you with your post-event processes. Okay, now there is a book that I'd like to tell you about very quickly. It's called Be the Nerd That's Heard, and I'm not launching it officially until the 1st of May. And by the way, this book is not about AI. This goes over the 7 power presenting protocols, but obviously with a lot more meat than we've had time to today. But here's a sneaky little insight. It's available on Amazon now. So even though I won't be talking about it on LinkedIn until the 1st of May, it is fully available. And then lastly, I've got this next QR code for you. And this QR code is not my LinkedIn profile. That was the one at the beginning. This is going to take you through to a short survey. Please, 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 please do complete the DEMOFEST survey and give the feedback to Consensus that they're asking for. But this one is my own little survey. And as a thank you for completing it, I will not only make sure that you get the presentation. I'm hoping that Consensus will do that too, but I will send you my pre-sales presentation playbook as a little gift there as well. So it's been a pleasure talking to you about those 7 power presenting protocols. It's been a real pleasure explaining how we can use AI inside them to get maximum results in your human-to-human connections. But, my friends, the real pleasure will come for you when you actually use these things and implement them, and thus you will reap all of the rewards in your professional life of being a nerd that gets heard. Thank you very much.
David, can I just share, if I can take the screen share back here real quick, just to wrap up?
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, well, thank you, David. Great session, as always. It was a pleasure doing this with you again as a moderator. But as we wrap up this session, just a few announcements. Please make sure you stop by our virtual expo hall. Our premier sponsors and partners have gone above and beyond to help make this event a success for you. And we also have a raffle giveaway. There's not a coffee machine in there. Oh, actually, there is a coffee machine. There it is. It's on the right. So make sure you check out the leaderboard and enter the surveys and such so that you can take advantage of that. And then lastly, we're bringing DEMOFEST on the road in a live format. This is actually where David and I first met, is one of these live events. We'll be in New York City on May 15th and in London on October 8th. Would love to have you join us there as well. There's more information on that at demofest.com or in the docs tab. And then up next, you'll have these sessions here and you'll be automatically pushed to that next session. And thank you for joining us and have a great day.